Parents, welcome. We are sharing a series of video clips that will all help you understand our program at a deeper level, and we'll be sharing these out in time once a week, and we'll give you a heads up when those things will be coming out.
The reason we wanted to release these is to give you guys a better understanding of what your kids are going through every day. We're going to describe the structure, we're going to explain our approach and the approach that's sort of beginning to develop naturally within our setting. We're going to share some resources. We'll be answering some of the questions that may have come up within your households or your families over the last couple of months, and we'll also get some feedback from you towards the end of this series.
We hope you enjoy. So in this first session, we're going to be talking about what we've discovered as we did the research developing this program, and what we've seen in the few months that we've actually been going through the program, and what standards are key as we look at what experts are saying with what jobs will be coming about in the next 5 years, 10 years. So experts along many different realms, from economists to tech experts, explain that a lot of jobs that'll be around in the next 5 to 10 years don't even exist yet, and a lot of the skills needed aren't really known. That being said, there are some core skills that are going to be needed for people to have and use, and so we've really honed our instruction and our program around those skills, and there's 4 key skills.
Okay, so going over the most important 21st century skills that our kids are really going to need to have mastered by the time they're entering the job force are going to be 4. It's critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and effective communication. Critical thinking really goes over the practice of problem solving, among other qualities. We're going to really need to be able to question. We're going to need to have media literacy. We're going to need to know our sources. We're going to need to be able to question whether those sources are giving us accurate information. It also involves a little bit of skepticism. We need to question some of the information that we are gathering, so that our kids will know what sources are credible and how to really work through what information they are receiving. The other skill of creativity, we are rocking in the classroom on like a minute-by-minute basis. They're thinking outside the box. They are self-driven. A lot of the play that we see emerge in the classroom is open-ended, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see them stretching the limits and stretching the boundaries, changing the rules, and really developing their own sense of creativity. And again, we just come back to that concept that it's driven by the student, it's initiated by the student, and it's their motivation that drives those activities. When it comes to collaboration, we really want to see kids who are effectively working together, and when it becomes ineffective, what do they do and how do they handle those kinds of situations? We've all had those moments in the workplace, and we really want our kids to be ready for effectively collaborating, working on teams, getting people rallied behind a single idea, sharing purpose and sharing value with their teammates in the process of that, really empowering others to reach more of their own potential if they are leading a group, and that ability to sometimes let go of an idea or to be flexible with how they execute some of their own ideas in that process. The last skill we really want to make sure that all of our little human beings are nailing before they're entering the job force is communication. This is just vitally important to us being effective humans as we begin to develop our own families and build relationships. We want to be able to effectively communicate our needs, our wants, our values, our ideas. We want to be able to share those with other people in a way that they can understand what we really mean. That even comes down to the process of effective listening skills. We want to attend to what other people are saying. We want to question what other people are saying so that we get a better understanding, a deeper understanding of what they're trying to communicate in that process as well. We want to make sure that what we're saying is clear, that we're direct, and all those things just emerge over time, along with practicing those kinds of moments, having their ideas and their contributions really valued and attended to by supportive adults in the room. This mixed age classroom is beautiful for that because older kids are also practicing that with our younger students. They're really valuing what their contributions are, listening to what they have to say, and we try to be patient in the process with all of that.
So with collaboration and communication, they're tied together in the sense that they take specific skills to be successful in those areas. The first is interpersonal skills. So interpersonal skills being able to empathize with others, have theory of mind, and compromise with others. It's really important for you to be able to do those things if you're going to work with others. To have good interpersonal skills, you need to have good personal skills in the sense of knowing what ideas you have. So you ran through some of the assumptions you have and you tested those things. And then also having a good ability to regulate your own emotions and thoughts. So now we're going to give concrete examples of each of those components and how they're happening organically in our learning environment.
Okay, in our process of trying to come up with concrete examples of each one of those 4 C's that we just hit, in isolation it was incredibly difficult. So I'm going to do my best to pare down to critical thinking. And the examples that we came up with that were pretty concrete examples of our kiddos really practicing and developing critical thinking skills. When we are outside in nature, there is a constant pull to create a space and to develop games. So we're watching them critically think as they create forts in the woods using materials and resources that are at hand to develop something completely different. And they think outside the box all the time when they're in that process. We also have a whole half of the room really that's become devoted to critical thinking and also creativity and collaboration and communication, which is why it's so hard to break these all apart. But we have a construction zone that is a constant buzz of activity, and they are taking things and scraps, recycled products, leftover bits and pieces from other things, and turning them into something brand new, which again overlaps with all of the 4 C's really, unless they're working in there alone. But we really see examples of critical thinking, problem solving, resource management, all of those things going on in that space all of the time. We also have a process throughout the week where we bring up awarenesses. Kiddos in the space or adults in the space will say, hey, this thing I noticed, maybe something isn't flowing very well, something isn't working as smoothly as we need it to. And it's really up to them and up to us as a community to bring those to everyone else's awareness, assuming that people are not doing it on purpose and it's just something that we need to address as a community. So they're coming up with the awareness, and then we also problem solve together as a group for solutions or things that we can try and test out throughout the week to see if we can kind of smooth out that process. Another example occurred just a couple of days ago while we were at the Forge, which is a community space that we've been invited into about once a week so far. And we had a couple of kids trying a project, and they got a sequence out of order. And in the process of that sequence going out of order, it would have destroyed really the entire process. One of our learners got the sequences out of order, and it would have really wrecked the whole process if this kiddo hadn't caught it in time, which was amazing. He was watching so closely that he did catch it in time and was able to cancel the job that he had sent and kind of stop the project mid, which no one had really ever instructed or shown him how to do. So in the moment, he was critically thinking, and he noticed something wasn't going right, and so he reacted quickly. He stopped that process, went back to his computer, adjusted the sequence that he needed to, which was the way he had seen it modeled for him before, caught it in time, resent his project to the Glowforge, and was able to salvage it flawlessly. He also was able to take that learning and then show another kid who was in the space how to do that same process. And really, it was just a group learning process because everybody in that space was just so amazed that he was able to catch it in time. A really great example of how he was critically thinking. In the construction space, we see all the time the engineering process just naturally unfolding. Kiddos are using resource management and taking bits and pieces of other parts. They come up with a plan. They develop some prototype of something. They test it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, they go back to the drawing board and they start again. And all this, again, just coming back to that student-driven learning. They're motivated because it's a project and a process that they're choosing to go through, and they give so much dedication and so much more follow-through to those kinds of activities. And we watch them work with balance. We watch them work with structural integrity and all of those things where they're really critically thinking about the resources they have at hand, what that resource or material is capable of doing and what it's not capable of doing. We often find out that too. So those are a couple of examples of critical thinking in our space. Okay, so we'll try and pare down a couple examples of creativity that's happening throughout the week. We have a really beautiful space that's been set up to constantly be available for creative work and creative constructs. We have art going on around the room pretty much all day, every day. They're also involved in creating their own schedules. And part of creativity is making choices that are really meaningful to you as a person and then pursuing those. Again, coming back to that intrinsic motivation. It's a student-driven, a student-chosen activity or pursuit. So art is happening all the time. We've had music being developed in this space. Again, going back to that construction zone, there's lots of thematic things that are going through. People creating different sculptures, different engineering projects, and all of that coming back into that creativity. You can't have something new unless you've got a new idea, and they're really fleshing that out in our space all the time. We have kiddos in the space who are using Minecraft creatively. They're constantly coming up with their own challenges for themselves, what goals they want to hit, and how to go about figuring all of those things out. That out-of-the-box thinking just is consistently a thread that comes through. We had kids in this space not too long ago that took an online game that they had played, and then they turned this whole room into basically a giant game board, and just the creative process of using recycled pieces and bits and pieces of our classroom to construct something completely different. There was a juice box that turned into an oxygen tank, and a number of other things that would create an electrical shutdown if you touched it, levers and switches and all kinds of amazing things that we've been able to just really bear witness to the creativity. Paul and I talk about it all the time. It's a thing that you can't teach someone else to do, but if you create the space and you give them the time and you really support them, and we have this concept and this conversation going on about failure all of the time, that's valuable learning. And if you're not trying something new, then we know that there won't be any failure. So it's okay for you to fail because it means that you're trying something different. It means that you're trying something new that you've never maybe practiced out before. And this has become really supportive and a safe space for them to try those ideas out. So we watch that creative process and then maybe the editing process and coming back to the drawing board just over and over throughout the day. We really watch people's ideas be valued and respected, and just that creative process continually being birthed and really growing in the space every day.
Collaboration is our next C we'll be talking about. Collaboration is the practice of working together to achieve a common goal. And in the day and age that we're in now, with the resources of having a smartphone in your pocket at all times for most people, and having computers and technology, if you don't have those tools, is that it's more of who you know than what you know. Really, expertise are being streamlined into a narrow area for professions. And it's how do I utilize these other parts? How do I work with these other parts to accomplish a goal I'm looking for? What's that look like in our classroom? Students are collaborating all the time, as other videos have talked about, through the creative process, critical thinking process, and because they're creating all the time, they're working with others who have skill sets. So a lot of times the younger ones are having the older ones help them write if they're trying to make a sign within their dramatic play, or when they're setting up a kitchen and they're going to make tea for other students. They may have older students help them rip tape when they're trying to construct something. Our older students are often having conversations with us, the staff, on how to utilize a program on the computer, or to share ideas of what they want to do, field trips they want to take, new offerings that they want to go through or teach. And so through that process, they have to flesh out those ideas with us and really streamline how we can make whatever they're trying to do successful. One thing as far as them using the resources around them to accomplish goals that they're trying to reach is realizing that they have really all the information they need at their fingertips. It's been an interesting process, but for them to understand that Ellen and I are not the experts, we're just learners ourselves in this space that provide different ideas, but we don't necessarily have all the answers, or really many answers. And again, these resources of technology, we have a world library at our fingertips at any moment that we can Google or research any information we need to, use that information, and then apply it. Closely tied to collaboration is communication, which is the practice of conveying ideas quickly and clearly, sharing an idea in an objective, proficient, and direct way is really important. Using those active listening skills with others when you're trying to communicate with them, they're inevitably going to communicate back their feedback. And using those interpersonal skills we talked about earlier, which is reading your audience, figuring out, should I stop talking? Should I keep going because they're interested? Can I empathize with where they're at right now? And so examples of that, we've already hit several. A lot of our nature trips, kids are constructing forts, and they're constructing games around those environments that they've created. And within that, there's constant negotiation on roles, what type of role they're going to have, what rules should be set in place. Within the learning environment back here at the facility, when they're doing construction, they're often doing it together. So communicating new ideas of the creativity that's coming out takes place. Minecraft is really popular, which we'll talk about later, but they're teaching each other how to use the keyboard, how to use the different components of the game, how you craft something, the process of building certain structures, and all of those different aspects.